And we're live. Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well. This is going to be a kind of the first market open live stream, so I want to break down some of the charts together. If you guys have questions, we can go over all of that. But we have had some interesting movement, especially on some of the New Zealand crosses. Pound CAD has also been interesting. The RBNZ increased interest rates last night, so we're going to go over that, and we're going to talk about the impact that that's going to have on the markets, because it's pretty important. So we'll hop into that right away. So we'll go over a few pairs. First, let's look at Pound Aussie. I'm going to go through everything, and then if you guys have any questions, I'll check the chat in a little bit. We'll break everything down together. So in terms of Pound Aussie, I don't see that there's been anything crazy. We've really just been side ranging for a while in this area here, still bouncing from 1.85. So not as interesting. However, we do have a couple of buy areas that I'm looking at that look pretty solid. Here we have this fib, which is the 38, the 200 EMA on the 4 hour. If we extend this down here, it's not really a valid fib actually, but we've got this 50 fib, the 38 is lower. We also have this trend line, which I don't think is going to be relevant for any time soon, but we have that. So really I'm looking for 8455 on GA. I think that's going to be a nice buy. And we also have this really strong sell, which many of us have been waiting for quite some time. The daily 100 EMA is still in a really nice spot. This is the 61 fib area from this high. So we're waiting for that sell, a nice key level around here as well. So really nothing too crazy with Pound Aussie just yet. We're waiting for some kind of breakout to the upside or the downside. I want to look at Pound New Zealand because we did have a trade that triggered, which worked out really nice. I broke it down in one of the earlier videos this week, I think the video on Monday, and we hit 1.94. Well, we didn't actually hit 1.94, but we hit our zone, we hit our area. And we did about 60 pips overnight, at least overnight for me. It might be different where you guys are. So we hit it here, we did 70 pips. So that was a really nice drop and a good lesson in regards to how important it is to place your pending correctly, because if you had placed your pending at 1.94, which was the last confluence, I'll go on the daily, it didn't actually hit 1.94. So that would have been unfortunate for you. You would have just missed it. We've hit it now, but if you looked at those 4-hour candles, we didn't actually hit 1.94. So we bounced from the moving average and the fib. So really, if you missed that trade, just try and refine how you're placing your pendings a little bit, because it's very important. The market can easily move from your first confluences, so don't get too greedy. And we're hitting this trend line as well. So I don't know how we're going to react. It's really a nice key level, 1.94. It's possible that we're just retesting the area again and we are going to drop. But this is a pretty bullish 4-hour candle that we printed. So we do have this higher up area, 945, which I need to put my pending in because we could get it today. So our first confluence is here at that 200 EMA. Let's break this down and make sure we have the zone correct. So this is our higher up fib from the first high, but we might have something from here as well. No, that's in between the 61 and the 78. So it's really just the one fib, but we have the weekly moving averages. That's what we need to check. So yeah, as you can see, this red box here, so I'm thinking 944 is going to be the pending. Check how large the zone is. Maybe a little bit higher, 9442. $9,443. And if we check to see how large the zone is, I don't think it's too big. It's about 20 pips. So 30 pip stop loss might be a little tight on this one. However, on the daily, we've got the 200 EMA here. So it's a little bit of a more difficult execution. I think 30 pips is going to be a little tight. I think we're going to need maybe 50 pips. Let's check to see how everything looks. or 200 pip stop loss if you want to be safe. I'm just kidding. 50 pips. 50 pips is definitely a good amount of breathing room. We're going to be just above the 800. Let's check the weekly. I think 50 is going to be your safest bet. I wouldn't go above 50 because you can see the weekly moving averages all here that are really nicely in the zone. So 45 pips. Let's check what 40 looks like. 40 is getting a little tight because the risk is that we wick through all of these and then you get stopped out and then it does go your way. So that is always the worst. Let's see how well we react to this. Minor wicks through a little bit here. It's a pretty good key level though. Pretty strong here. It's pretty strong. Now, what I like to do sometimes is check the moving average too. So we're dealing with this this green 200. So how well is this pair responding to it? Here, really nice, really nice. Let's go over a little bit of some slippage through there. It's not bad though. We've got touches right to the pip here. That one did break through. So I think 40 if you want to risk it, 50 if you want to be safe, and if you're kind of somewhere in the middle, I might use 45 pips because since it is a weekly setup, I think it's more than fair to try and grab more than 30 pips. I think we're going to get a decent move, especially considering how we haven't had much of a pullback. This is the weekly. Let's check the 4 hour. It's not that it's overextended. It's just that, you know, we are getting a decent pullback. The daily, we're pretty bearish. So, and I think a lot of retail traders are getting stopped out with this trend line, or may get stopped out with this trend line if we do end up moving higher. Could create some nice liquidity. So all of that to say, I know this is kind of a longer breakdown, but this is how I really look at things when the zone is a little bit wider and I want to make sure that the execution is solid. I think 45 pips for me. If I get stopped out, I would be okay. I could live with that. And 9443 is our first confluence, so I want to take it from there. Gives us enough room in case we do move up to the 50. You could split depending. That's something you could do if you really were adamant on wanting to wait for the 50 fib. You could split it, put a portion of your position at the EMA. You could put the rest at the 50 fib. That's something you could do if you're willing to. If you want the best risk to reward and you're willing to take the risk of missing the trade, you could put your whole thing at the 50. In this case, I don't totally recommend that because it's a strong weekly setup. It's gonna bounce from the 50, guaranteed. Like, there's no guarantees in trading, but guaranteed it's going to drop from the 50 because you have almost every single weekly moving average. So it's not a trade that I want to miss. I'll leave it at that. So 9443 is where we're going to set the pending. So I will do that after this live stream. I'll just check the chat, see if you guys have any. Do you guys have any questions about pound New Zealand? Apologies. We want this. Let's see. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it. Hey Robert, hey Dan. Yeah, do you guys have any questions regarding this setup? If not, I can move on to something else. However, what's important to note is we're getting this bullish reaction. Well, it's bullish for the pound, but really it's being driven by the RBNZ. So they increased interest rates last night. I think I've got it over here. I'll find it for you. Yeah, so they increased interest rates by 0.25 basis points. Some people were expecting 0.5, but I think this is important to keep in mind because it's signaling for the rest of the world that rate hikes are on the way. And I believe that the reason that the New Zealand dollar is weaker because of this announcement is because some people were pricing in a 50 basis point. So they're hawkish because they're hiking rates, but they're not as hawkish, and so that's a little bit weak for the currency. I don't know how long this reaction is going to last, but yeah, let's just take a look here for those of you that... So as you can see, the Kiwi is the laggard after the RBNZ hiked rates by 25 basis points, disappointing some of the more hawkish section of the market who are hoping for a 50 BPS move. So that's really why we're seeing a weaker New Zealand dollar. I don't think it's going to carry over too much because overall it is a hawkish move from the bank. So that's why we're getting this move. And it's important, like I said, to keep in mind because this is going to signal for the RBA to most likely increase interest rates. It's very rare that you have a G7 country that's doing something totally economically different, both monetary policy-wise and even fiscal policy-wise. That's way different than any of the other G7 countries. I'm pretty sure New Zealand's in the G7 countries, but all that to say, it's a major currency that we trade. So it's going to signal, you know, all federal banks, Federal Reserve, they're going to increase, central banks, they're going to increase interest rates. So we need to try and keep this in mind and adapt to the market accordingly. It's definitely a hawkish move. You know, it's only a matter of time until the Federal Reserve has to increase rates to combat inflation. Now, I hope you guys, you know, grab a cup of tea, a cup of coffee. Since we are moving higher on GN, I'm just going to set my pending for it. I use my phone. So 9443. And I don't think there's any restricted news on FTMO. So that is okay. So for those of you that caught the lower trade, this is fantastic. You caught 9.4, caught 30, 50 pips. You know, this could be an opportunity to take another trade, and it's a pretty solid setup. So 9.443. Stop loss, we're going to do 45 pips. And the take profit, we're going to take multiple TPs, but I'm going to just set it as 50 pips. That'll give us our 1-to-1. We'll do like 100 lots. I think that's probably pretty reasonable. Okay. Sell. So could make adjustments to that. We're 35 pips away, so just in case we do get some kind of spike, you know, I want to be in that. See if you guys have any questions regarding that. Thomas, if we're doing a 1-to-2 trade, in this case you could position yourself. So stop loss 30 pips, and we take 50% profit from the first 30 pips. Yeah, so you could use a 30 pip stop loss here, but it's a little tight in my opinion, because if we were to lower it down 30 pips, it looks okay. Well, it doesn't really look okay on the daily because we could absolutely bounce from the 200 EMA here, but it leaves no room from the 50 if we come all the way up to the 50 fibs. So I think 45 pips is a fair position, especially considering where the weekly moving averages are. So if you want your 2-to-1 risk to reward, which is totally reasonable, you know, 40 pip stop loss, 80 pip TP. 80 pips is not, don't look at the profit that I have here. That's I haven't adjusted it. 80 pips is reasonable considering the magnitude of this setup. So, you know, even if we come back down here to 932, that's 120 pips. So I'm definitely interested in holding this for some kind of a swing trade. So you can definitely try and get your 2-to-1 risk to reward on this setup. CE, I see markets price of the rumor in. Yeah, exactly. So the market was pricing in a rate hike from the Royal Bank of New Zealand. It's not a surprise by any means. It's just that some people were expecting a 50-point hike instead of a 25, and so now the market's reacting to that, pricing in that. And I didn't read, you know, what their outlook is in terms of how many rate hikes are coming in 2022. But it is something that we're going to need to keep in mind. Okay, so that's GN. So we can take a look back at that after. Let's look at GCAD. because GCAD was interesting. I had a student that I was with this morning and we went over GCAD. Interesting spot that it's in. So we are retesting, and it's kind of bouncing from it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'll clean it up. I'll start from scratch for you guys. We can do the full breakdown. It does not take long. Okay, so we've got our fib right here. Boom. So we had this 38, which bounced. I broke it down in the video earlier this week also. So really a nice setup. We hit those moving averages first. So that was solid. Now my student, the question that he had was, well, we're retesting it. Should we take it? And I said, no, it's kind of risky. We did 50 pips. There's no point in trying to do it again. It's reacting a little bit here, so it's certainly possible. We do have this 50 fib area at 1.688. With that moving average. Let's see if there's anything on the daily. Nothing on the daily. We've been waiting for a sell for a really long time. Let's get rid of this. We'll draw this guy. Okay, so we're looking for something kind of up here, 50 fib, really strong key level. So we're not getting a ton of setups, but a buy could be interesting in order to break this resistance level. So would I take this? Let's see where this trend line is. I might actually. This is interesting. I could potentially take it. Let's check the zone. The key level is kind of within this range here. Any round numbers? Let's check 6.9. Yeah, we've got the round number 6.9 just above, so we could include that. And if we draw a fib from here, 50 is higher. 50, which we've kind of bounced from. This is the guy that we want. Let's see where it bounced from. Yeah, it didn't really break the 61. So yeah, so this is interesting. So I'm gonna keep my eyes on this. GCAD here could be an interesting buy. Key level, write it down because I always forget. So we've got the 50 fib plus the 4H 100 EMA plus a round number / key level. So that is solid. Let's take a look. Let's just quickly look at oil. So if we want pound CAD to go up, we want a weaker Canadian dollar. So we want oil to drop. They're very strongly correlated. And I could potentially see that we're kind of this little resistance here. It's kind of an inverse head and shoulders, but I could see a drop coming. Okay, so that's GCAD. Something we want to keep our eyes on. GA there was nothing, so I'll do that. And we want to keep a close eye on GN because it's not far. So GN, GCAD, two setups that we're looking at. 1.69. Here the pending I would have just on that moving average, so 689. $30 pips would be more than enough on here. You could aim for 30 and then maybe 40 into those moving averages. Something like that, okay? Any questions, guys, you can let me know in the chat. I'll go through them. No worries. Thomas, could I ask that you would use a fib retracement on weekly or monthly? Yeah, totally. I'll use a fib retracement on, all time frames, weekly, monthly. It's just rare that you get anything on the monthly. You want to keep an eye on it because obviously it's very major, but it doesn't happen that often when you get a weekly or a monthly fib. So here we have the weekly. I can get rid of these so you can actually see. Yeah, here we've got the week. This would be a weekly fib. So. And if we're looking here, it's a strong key level, this area, with these wicks on the weekly. I like this a lot, actually. Touch here, touches here, touches here. So 1.69 is a significant level on GCAD. So I'm going to probably put a pending in for there as well. So just below. If you want to be safe and really get it, you could put it at 1.69, but I'm just going to put that in now as well. So just hang tight. 40 pips away on GN. So we want the pending at 6893, 6894, 6894. Okay. 100 lots again. Okay, so that's about 22 pips away. So let's see what happens there. That's all good. So we'll take a quick look at gold. I posted a video this morning. Not a ton of you guys are clicking on it, which is totally fine, but I do think that it's a massive learning lesson. I think, out of all the videos I posted so far this week, it's one of the most valuable. So if you haven't checked out the gold video that I posted this morning, I would. Super good learning lesson. This move was driven by fundamentals. So Jerome Powell was reappointed by Biden to be the head of the Federal Reserve. People were hoping that the vice chairman was going to be appointed as the head because he's a little bit more dovish. And that's, good for markets. The markets get a little bit spooked. Stronger US dollar as a result, as we can see here. We've been breaking higher on the DXY. So this just absolutely melted. We hit the 38 buy area here. Super strong setup. And I got into the trade. It just missed my pending. It moved 50 pips and then it came back down. I was like, you know what? It's a strong setup. I'm going to leave my pending. And then I did get stopped out. This box here, which is okay, by the way. I don't mind. When it's a strong setup like that, it was worth the risk. This box here was the 50 fib. Did not take it. Not as strong confluences. And then we had this 1800 area, weekly EMAs, daily or just daily EMAs, well, 4-hour EMAs, key level, round number, 61 fib, like super strong setup. And we barely bounced from it. So I know a few of you that did make money from it. It did about 70 pips or so, this little move here. This guy was the 4-hour close when New York closed that day, 5 p.m. Eastern time. So I just closed it at break even. Maybe I should have held it, but it is what it is. And we're still dropping. So it's a good lesson for how we need to stay on top of fundamentals, because that's what drove this. And how, it's about selecting the best area, accepting risk, and all of those things. So in terms of where we could end up, I mean, I think a lot of retail traders are getting stopped out, and that's going to be just fantastic for institutions and banks. They're going to bring the pair way higher, and come the end of December, we're going to say, wow, that was a crazy bull run. I wish I got into it. So I think it could still happen. We've got the 61 here, which is the next key level. So if we drop all the way down to the 61, could take a buy here. But there's nothing too crazy. We did bounce from the 78.6, which was a good trade. It was with the trend line that I just deleted. And now we're breaking through it. But it did about 120 pips, 1,200 pips. So super solid. We'll take one more look at GN. We're moving there. We'll see what happens. It could go either way. We need a little bit more of a push. GCAD negative 0.14. We're also not far on GCAD. So those are the two setups that I'm looking at today. Anything is possible. We had that earlier setup on GN at 1.94. That worked out really nice. Pound Aussie and Pound New Zealand aren't doing anything. Pound Aussie super boring. Pound New Zealand's trying to maybe break out a little bit, but no setups on these pairs. I wouldn't be surprised if there's no setups on those for the rest of the year. They're just super ranging. GJ also nothing crazy. So that is it. I'll take a quick look at the chat, see if you guys have any questions. Okay, Marvex Gold. Somebody said, is it me or the market is not so much active during London? I usually trade London. I mean, London, the earlier part of London, I'm sleeping for. And I don't know. I think London and New York are obviously the most active sessions. I don't know if they've been quieter. It's true, the markets have been kind of quiet lately, a little bit more side ranging. Last week or two have been better, but yeah, I don't know if London's been quieter. Could you do a video on the different correlations if it's something you use? Yeah, totally. I should do that. I'm trying to do a video a week, so I'll definitely focus on that. With my students, we've been going over that a lot, which has been helpful. Definitely, especially with gold, looking at DXY. That was a good learning lesson there. CAD and oil, and looking at Aussie, New Zealand, that cross, and all of those things. So yeah, I'll definitely make a video on that. Okay, so Dan asked, thoughts on GCAD sell from 50 fib. So I'll just take a quick look on that. It's the sell. 50 fib sell GCAD. Let's just hop over. 200 EMA. Is that the daily 200 EMA that you're looking at? Yeah, up here, yeah, totally a good area. The timing looks right now, if it is ever going to hit, it looks okay because that moving average is still above the fib. So totally not bad at all. Definitely looking at that. 61 fib is not so exciting. So the risk is that, you know, we could just break lower and make a new low, but we might retrace, we might get that this year. So it really depends. But yeah, if we do get there, there's a key level there, 50 fib, 200 EMA, super strong setup, so I'll definitely be taking that. So one last look, GN 0.87. So keep your eyes out on those two setups. That's what I'm going to be looking out for. It's really everything for today, so I hope you guys are doing well. I hope I answered a few of your questions, and I'll be doing a lot more of these market open, market closes, so if you guys have questions, you know, hop on and ask me, and I'll be happy to do my best to help you out. So that is it for today. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.